If you think that manic episodes are random and unpredictable, you might be surprised to hear that you can usually tell when one is about to happen. They don't just come out of nowhere. There are often early warning signs. And if you know what to look for, you can spot these signs before the mania or hypomania starts. Today, I'm talking about the prodromal signs of mania, or the early symptoms you see right before a manic episode starts. I'm Patty, the girl with blue energy. I have bipolar disorder and I make videos about mental health and personal growth. So what is a prodrome? A lot of conditions have early warning signs, like an aura before you get a migraine or a seizure, or how pregnant women will have early symptoms before they go into labor. Well, bipolar disorder is much the same way. You can have a prodrome before mania or depression. These early symptoms typically last for a few days to a few weeks. Now, not everyone with bipolar disorder experiences a prodrome, but around 80% of people with bipolar disorder will recognize at least one early symptom. If you do have early symptoms, you'll start to notice patterns over time. But what's interesting is that our relatives and family members and other people often notice our early symptoms when we don't. One study found that family members of bipolar people could spot the symptoms early on around 97% of the time, whereas the person who actually had the bipolar disorder only noticed them 70% of the time. So these are the signs you're most likely to see. We will have a change in sleep or some type of sleep disturbance. And what it looks like for the bipolar person normally is they just don't need as much sleep. So suddenly they're waking up really early before their alarm goes off and they're ready to get up. Or they're staying up super late working on their project or whatever it is that they're doing, and they can't sleep. They don't want to sleep. They want to stay up. This can also look like insomnia because we may try to go to sleep, especially if we know that a sleep disturbance is something that pushes us into hypomania or mania. So we may try to go to sleep, but we can't sleep. We try and we get up because we're not sleeping. Another thing to know is sleep disturbances can trigger mania. So if you have insomnia for some sort of valid reason, you're upset about something and you can't sleep, this can also trigger a hypomanic episode or manic episode. But either way, sleep is a substantial factor in the early stages of hypomania or mania and something you want to look for. If you are a family member or partner or loved one, you may not know if they're having a sleep disturbance, but there are things you can watch for. So if they're living with you, they're getting up out of bed and they're going to their laptop or they're going to watch TV. They're turning on the lights. You will notice activity when they should be sleeping. If they work with you or you see them casually, they may tell you they didn't get much sleep, but still they don't appear very tired. And they may do this a few days in a row where they're barely getting any sleep, but they're still getting up and doing their things, their job, their routines. They may text you or message you or even call you at odd hours. So they may call you at 4 or 5 in the morning or at 12 or 1 at night. If that's their normal patterns, that's not something to alert you. But if you suddenly see that they're texting you or replying to your messages at really early hours or really late hours, that could be a sign that they're starting to have early symptoms of hypomania or mania, or they're not sleeping very much. That is a tangible way you can see it. Another sign to look for is cognitive issues. Not everyone realizes that people will have cognitive issues during hypomanic and manic episodes and even before the episode starts. And this is because your brain is starting to move a little faster and it can cause issues with how it processes things. So for the person with bipolar disorder, they might experience racing thoughts, or they may have trouble concentrating or focusing, or their thoughts may drift off mid-sentence, like when they're talking or even when they're listening to you. They may lose their train of thought or lose their focus on what you're saying. Another thing people sometimes do is they mispronounce, missay, skip words, things like that when they're talking or when they're texting or emailing. They may seem forgetful or scatterbrained, like they're not paying attention to you. They may lose things or forget things. This is pretty common before a hypomanic episode. This is one I've talked about in quite a few videos. we start talking more and start talking faster before we go into a manic episode or hypomanic episode, and definitely when we're in one. But you'll start to notice this before one starts, that we start talking more and that we start talking faster. And we may not do it consistently. We may talk really fast to you in the morning, but it settles down. But it's something you'll start to notice. We will start talking faster and come in with all these things we want to tell you, and we'll tell you about it super fast. As the bipolar person, you might feel like your thoughts and things you want to say are coming to you faster than you can say them or write them down. And your ideas are coming to you super fast, and sometimes you can't get them out fast enough. But you might also feel like almost like an outside observer watching yourself, like I'm talking too much and I'm talking too fast, but not feeling like you have control over it. And another thing you might do is start having a lot more internal dialogue going on inside your own head. So you might be having a conversation with your partner or coworker that's going on in your head, and it's distracting you from your actual what you're trying to do. We end up having a lot more internal dialogue, not just external dialogue. So what this will look like to you if you're watching someone who has bipolar disorder is they will start talking to you more, and they may be hard to talk to because they don't leave pauses in their conversations or allow you to say anything. They may interrupt you a lot. They may repeat themselves a lot. That is something that happens a lot both during a hypomanic episode and leading into one. So we may repeat ourselves, and it's because our brain is going really fast. We're talking a lot, both internally and externally. And we may be telling our stories and things and thoughts to lots of different people, so we don't remember we told you this already, let alone that we've told it to you 5 times. And this is another big one you see. We will have an increase in energy, but not just an increase in energy. We will suddenly be very focused on goal-related activities and have the energy to do them. So this is when you'll see us taking on new goals and projects. And it's hard for us to tell if we've finally gotten out of our slump and we're motivated, or if we're headed into hypomania or mania. So what this looks like for us is that we suddenly start taking on new goals or new ambitions. It can also look like we're changing up our routines. Like we might change up our morning routine, our evening routine, our workout routine. We might also suddenly start seeing things differently. Like if we haven't been happy in our relationship, all of a sudden we're looking at it differently. Or we hated our job, but now we're looking at it differently. These are some of the things you'll see when we are about to have a hypomanic or manic episode, is that we just change our perspective or outlook on things. You might notice that we're doing things like eating healthier or buying new gear or equipment for whatever goal we're into. Even if we don't know if we're going to stick with it, we'll go buy that new fitness equipment or something because we're motivated this time. We're going to do it because we love goals. And you might notice we feel more pressure to get our goals done during this time. So it's not just good enough to write down our goals. We feel not just motivated, but pressured. And this pressure can fuel the hypomania or mania. The last big sign you'll see before a hypomanic or manic episode is irritability and overreactivity. Now, a lot of people think that we're always irritable and overreactive, but that's not really true. We tend to get more irritable and more hypersensitive, more overreactive right before a hypomanic or manic episode. For the bipolar person, it might look and feel something like this. You might feel more sensitive. You might notice that you're more irritable or cranky, or that every little thing is just irritating you, and that you're reactive to more things. Like little things are irritating you or setting you off, and you're saying things when you normally would bite your tongue. For the people around us, this is what it can look like to them. They can feel like they're walking on eggshells, or like no matter what they try to say to us, they can't say the right thing. And this is because when we're irritable like this, we don't receive anything well. Everything is making us irritable. So you're probably going to struggle with saying the right things to us. We might feel really difficult to be around, so you may want to avoid us, but we probably won't let you. We may yell at you, snap at you, lose our temper with you much more easily. And you might feel that we get really mad or irritated with you if you interfere with one of our goals. These are not the only early symptoms you'll see before a manic episode. There are other symptoms people often see that I've talked about before. Some of them are things like hypersexuality. So They might experience an increased sex drive or an increase in masturbation or just feel more turned on than they normally do. They might feel the need or an urge to spend money. Impulsive spending is a big symptom, but it doesn't always look like actually spending money. Sometimes they just feel this urge to spend money, so they might get on Amazon and look at products they want to buy, or go to the store and want to buy something but not actually buy it. But this still can be an early indicator that someone's going to have a manic episode soon. Other things you might see is an increase in religiosity. So they may become more spiritual, more religious before a manic episode, or they may become more creative. Even though those are the most common symptoms, everyone has their own unique symptoms. So there are a lot of early hypomania symptoms that you might experience or your loved one might experience that isn't on this list, because we each have our own early indicators that hypomania or mania is about to start. Some people might feel physical symptoms, like they might feel hot or nauseous, or they might feel physically stronger, like their hypomania makes them physically have more energy and feel stronger. You might see things like sensory issues, like they listen to music louder, or colors seem brighter, or tastes seem tastier, so they may eat more because they're feeling more sensation with things. You might even notice physical changes in their body, like their eyes may change color, or their pupils may seem more dilated, or they may just look more vibrant. So these are my early symptoms that I typically experience before a hypomanic episode. So one of the things for me is that I often have a hypomanic episode directly after having a migraine. So migraines also have a prodromal phase, the migraine, and postdromal, which is the after. So I tend to get my hypomanic phases right after the migraine hangover or the postdromal phase. So the end of my migraine seems to line up with the beginning of my hypomanic or manic episode. And some of that is, I think, because you feel so crummy and have no energy that when you come out of it, you get this second wind and a lot of energy, and that's pretty noticeable for me. Big things for me, I mix up my words right after a migraine, but also right before I go into a hypomanic episode. So I might say, I put the bag in the book instead of the book in the bag, or I mix up people's names. That's pretty common for me. I might have an increased sex drive or start having symptoms of hypersexuality, and I often spend money as I go into a hypomanic episode. If I'm not spending it, I'm window shopping or thinking of ways to spend it, getting on my calculator, calculating how much money I can spend and where I can come up with money. And another big symptom for me is I start talking a lot. Most people notice this one. I'd really love to hear what you experience as your early symptoms of hypomania, and if you notice them more or other people notice it more. So what should you do if you notice that you have early symptoms before your manic episodes or hypomanic episodes? One thing is, it's really good to track your moods. I used to be like, why do I track my moods? I can't control them anyway. But tracking your moods and your symptoms lets you know, hey, these are my symptoms I normally have right before I get hypomanic or manic. So tracking your moods and symptoms can help you to identify when a hypomanic or manic episode is about to start. Pay attention to how many days you've noticed these symptoms, because sometimes you'll have these early symptoms and they'll last a day and they'll fade out, so they don't become a problem. If you start noticing that you're still having these symptoms 3 or 4 days in, you may want to talk to your doctor. I normally give myself a week because I've been dealing with this a long time, and I know that if it lasts longer than a week, then I might need help. I have waited longer than that depending on the type of symptoms I've been experiencing. But I would talk to your doctor and say, hey, when should I call you if I notice I'm having these symptoms? And you may want to talk to your doctor about medications you can have on hand for when you notice these symptoms, especially the sleep symptoms, because not getting enough sleep is a big trigger for mania and a big indicator that you're starting to have a hypomanic or manic episode. So your doctor might prescribe something to help you sleep when these things come up, or they might give you strategies. And talk to your family, your friends, your therapist, and outsiders to see if they can help you to spot when you're having early symptoms, because a lot of times it is easier for them to tell. And if you're starting to get hypomanic, you don't always have clarity with your thinking. So if you talk to them, they can help you with your judgment during these periods. I hope this helped you to recognize the early signs of mania or hypomania. If you found this video helpful, please click the like button and, of course, subscribe. I'll have another video for you guys real soon.